Good day, everyone. Welcome to our video on constitutional commissions in the Philippines, specifically created for your bar preparation. In this Q&A format, we'll be exploring the essential details of the three constitutional commissions: the Commission on Elections, the Commission on Audit, and the Civil Service Commission. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of the roles and functions of each commission in promoting transparency, accountability, and efficiency in the Philippine government. So let's dive in. Please read our disclaimer. Let's begin. What is the rule? In case of conflicting rulings between the Civil Service Commission, the Commission on Audit, and the COMELEC. The Civil Service Commission, the Commission on Election, and the Commission on Audit are equally preeminent in their respective spheres. Neither one may claim dominance over the other. In case of conflicting rulings, it is the judiciary that interprets the meaning of the law and ascertains the view which shall prevail. Based on the case of Civil Service Commission versus Pobre. May the Civil Service Commission, Commission on Audit, and COMELEC be abolished by a legislative act by Congress? The answer is no. They are constitutionally created and may not be abolished by statute. How are the Civil Service Commission, Commission on Audit, and COMELEC expressly described? They are independent. May the powers and the functions of the Civil Service Commission, Commission on Audit, and COMELEC be reduced by a legislative act by Congress? The answer is no. Each is conferred certain powers and functions which cannot be reduced by statute. How are chairmen and members of the Civil Service Commission, Commission on Audit, and COMELEC removed from office? They may only be removed from office by impeachment. The chairman and members may be reappointed or appointed in an acting capacity. True or false? False. The chairman and members may not be reappointed or appointed in an acting capacity. Each commission may promulgate its own rules, provided they do not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. True or false? The answer is true. Note, however, that such rules are subject to the disapproval by the Supreme Court. The chairman and the members are not subject to disqualifications. True or false? False. The chairman and members are subject to certain disqualifications calculated to strengthen their integrity. The Commission may appoint their own officials and employees in accordance with their own rules. True or false? False. The Commissions may appoint their own officials and employees in accordance with the Civil Service Law. What are the guarantees of independence provided for by the Constitution to the three commissions? First, they are constitutionally created and they may not be abolished by statutes of its judicial functions. Second, each is conferred certain powers and functions which cannot be reduced by statutes. Third, each is expressly described as independent. Fourth, chairmen and members are given fairly long terms of office, specifically 7 years. Fifth, chairmen and members cannot be removed except by impeachment. Sixth, chairmen and members may not be reappointed or appointed in an acting capacity. Seventh, salaries of chairmen and members are relatively high and may not be decreased during the continuance in office. 8. Commissions enjoy fiscal autonomy. Ninth, each commission may promulgate its own procedural rules provided they do not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights, although it's still subject to the approval or disapproval of the Supreme Court. 10th, chairmen and members are subject to certain disqualifications and inhibitions calculated to strengthen their integrity. 11th, commissions may appoint their own officials and employees in accordance with civil service laws. What is the central personnel agency of the government? The Civil Service Commission. What are the powers of the Civil Service Commission? First is to establish a career service and adopt measures to promote morale, efficiency, integrity, responsiveness, and courtesy in the civil service. Second, to strengthen the merit and reward system. Third, integrate all human resource development programs for all levels and ranks. And last, institutionalize a management climate conducive to public accountability. The Civil Service Commission has the power to hear and decide administrative cases instituted before it directly or on appeal, including contested appointments. True or false? True, the Civil Service Commission has the power to hear and decide administrative cases instituted before it directly or on appeal, including contested appointments, based on the Administrative Code of 1987. As a general rule, in the principle of security of tenure, no officer or employee of the civil service shall be removed or suspended. What is the exception? Under Article 9b, an officer or employee of the civil service may be removed for cause provided by law. What is covered by the Civil Service Commission? The Civil Service Commission covers branches, instrumentalities, government-owned and controlled corporations with original charters, agencies of the government, and other subdivisions of the government. If a government-owned and controlled corporation is incorporated under the Corporation Code, does it fall within the civil service and it's subject to Civil Service Commission's jurisdiction? No. If it is incorporated under the Corporation Code, it does not fall within the civil service jurisdiction and is not subject to civil service rules. If a government-owned and controlled corporation is previously government-controlled but is later privatized, does it fall within the civil service and is subject to CSC jurisdiction? Now, if previously government-controlled but is privatized, it ceases to fall under the Civil Service Commission. May the Civil Service Commission terminate the employment of a civil servant? The answer is no. The civil service is not a co-manager or surrogate administrator of government offices and agencies. Its function and authority are limited to approving or reviewing appointments to determine their compliance with requirements of the civil service laws. On its own, the Commission does not have the power to terminate employment or drop members from the roles, based on the case of UP and Torres versus Civil Service Commission. What are the classes of non-competitive positions? Non-competitive positions include policy determining positions, primarily confidential positions, and highly technical positions. Based on the case of the Civil Service Commission versus Javier, are individuals occupying non-competitive position covered by the guarantee of security of tenure? The answer is yes, they are covered by the guarantee of security of tenure, but the termination of their official relation can be justified on the ground of loss of confidence, because in that case their cessation from office involves no removal but the expiration of the term of office. Based on the case of Tanhai versus Kinit, what are the powers and functions of the COMELEC? First, to enforce and administer laws and regulations relative to the conduct of an election, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, and recall. Second, decide, except those involving a right to vote, all questions affecting elections, including the determination of the number and location of polling places, appointment of election officials and inspectors, and registered voters. Third, deputize, with the concurrence of the President, law enforcement agencies and instrumentalities for the exclusive purpose of ensuring free, orderly, honest, peaceful, and credible elections. Fourth, register after sufficient publication political parties, organizations, or coalitions which must present their platform or program of government and accredited citizen arms. Fifth, file upon a verified complaint or on its own initiative petitions in court for the inclusion or exclusion of voters, investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute cases of violation of election laws. Sixth, recommend to Congress effective measures to minimize election spending, including limitation of places where propaganda materials shall be posted, and to prevent and penalize all form of election frauds, offenses, malpractice, and nuisance candidates. Next, recommend to the President the removal of any officer or employee it has deputized, or the imposition of any other disciplinary action for violation or disregard of or disobedience to its directive, order, or decision. Last, submit to the President and Congress a comprehensive report on the conduct of each election, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, or recall, based on Article 9C, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution. What is the vote requirement for a valid COMELEC en banc resolution? A majority of the votes, or 4 votes. If the 6 members are evenly divided, the Commission on Elections should rehear the case, based on the case of Sevilla versus COMELEC. What political parties and organizations may not be registered? First, religious denominations or sects. Second, those that seek to achieve their goals through violence or unlawful means. Third, those that refuse to uphold and adhere to the Constitution. Fourth, those supported by any foreign government, specifically through the receipt of financial contributions related to the elections. Based on Article 9C, Section 25, Paragraph 5 of the 1987 Constitution. The COMELEC has the power to decide questions involving the right to vote. True or false? False. It is placed under the jurisdiction of courts, based on Article 9C, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the 1987 Constitution. Can the COMELEC disqualify candidates who cannot wage a nationwide campaign and are not nominated by a political party as candidates in elections? The answer is yes. The equal access to opportunities for public office under Article 2 is not self-executory. It neither bestows a right nor elevates the privilege to the level of an enforceable right. Such privilege may be subjected to limitations based on the case of Chavez versus COMELEC. What are considered pre-proclamation controversies? First, incomplete returns. Second, returns with material defects. Third, returns which appeared to be tampered with, falsified, or prepared under duress or containing discrepancies in the votes. What is the rule on the hearing of election cases? All election cases shall be first heard and decided in division, provided that a motion for reconsideration shall be decided in bank. What are the cases that must first be heard and decided in a COMELEC division? First, all election cases including pre-proclamation contest under its original jurisdiction. Second, petition to cancel a certificate of candidacy. Third, cases appealed from the Regional Trial Court or MTC, first level courts. Fourth, petition for certiorari filed before the Commission from a decision of the Regional Trial Court or first level courts before the same may be heard en banc. What are the powers and duties of the Commission on Audit? First, examine, audit, and settle all accounts pertaining to revenue and receipts of funds or property, expenditure and uses of funds or property owned or held in trust by or pertain to, first, the government, second, its subdivision, agencies, or instrumentalities, and including GOCCs with original charter. Second, to conduct post-audit with respect to the following: constitutional bodies, commissions and offices granted fiscal autonomy, autonomous state colleges and universities, government-owned and controlled corporations and their subsidiaries incorporated under the Corporation Code, non-governmental entities receiving subsidy or equity directly or indirectly from or through the government, which are required by law, granting the institution to submit to such audit. What are the functions of the Commission on Audit? First, examine and audit all government revenues. Second, examine and audit all forms of government expenditures. Third, settle government accounts. Fourth, promulgate accounting and auditing rules, including those for the prevention and disallowance of irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, or unconscionable expenditures. Fifth, decide administrative cases involving expenditure of public funds. Does the COMELEC have jurisdiction over intra-party disputes? The COMELEC's jurisdiction over intra-party disputes is limited. It does not have the blanket authority to resolve any and all controversies involving political parties. Political parties are generally free to conduct their activities without the interference of the state. The COMELEC may intervene in disputes internal to a party only when necessary to discharge its constitutional functions. Does the COMELEC have jurisdiction over intra-party leadership disputes? The answer is yes. The COMELEC may resolve an intra-party leadership dispute in a proper case brought before it as an incident of its power to register political parties. The COMELEC's jurisdiction over intra-party leadership disputes has already been settled by the court. The court has ruled in CALO versus COMELEC that the COMELEC's power and function under Section 2, Article 9C of the Constitution should include the ascertainment of the identity of the political party and its legitimate officers responsible for its acts. The court declared that the COMELEC's power to register political parties necessarily involves the determination of the persons who must act on its behalf, based on the case of Matthias versus COMELEC. Is the election of sangguniang kabataan members within the jurisdiction of the COMELEC? The answer is no. The conduct of elections and contests involving election of SK officials do not fall within the jurisdiction of the COMELEC. It is within the jurisdiction or authority of the DILG Secretary to exempt a local government unit from holding SK elections, based on the case of Alunan versus Mirasol. Does the Commission on Audit have jurisdiction over the local water utilities administration? The answer is yes. A water district is a GOCC with a special charter. Under Section 2, Subdivisions D, Article 9 of the 1987 Constitution, it is the mandate of the Commission on Audit to audit all government agencies, including GOCCs, with original charters. Based on the case of Barbo versus COA. Do the Boy Scouts of the Philippines fall under the Commission on Audit's jurisdiction? The answer is yes, because the BSP is a public corporation created by law for a public purpose attached to the Department of Education pursuant to its Charter and Administrative Code of the Philippines, dated 1987. As such, the funds of the BSP fall under the jurisdiction of the Commission on Audit. The Supreme Court held that not all corporations which are not government-owned or controlled are ipso facto private corporations, as there exists another distinct class of corporation or chartered institutions which are otherwise known as public corporations. These corporations are treated by law as agencies or instrumentalities of the government which are not subject to the test of ownership or control and economic viability, but to a different criteria relating to its public purpose, interest, or constitutional policies and objectives in their administrative relationship to the government or any of its department or offices, based on the case of Boy Scouts of the Philippines versus COA. Is the Manila Economic and Cultural Office subject to the audit by COA? Yes. It is subject to the audit of COA for the consular fees and verification fees it collects are considered government funds. The Manila Economic and Cultural Office or MECO is sui generis. It was established when the Philippines severed diplomatic relations with Taiwan upon recognition of China. Now, none of its members are government officials. It is neither a GOCC or an instrumentality. Its functions are of a kind that would otherwise be performed by the diplomatic or consular offices of the Philippines. Although MECO is neither a GOCC nor a government instrumentality, and despite its non-governmental character, MECO handles government funds in the form of verification fees it collects on behalf of the Department of Labor and Employment and the consular fees it collects under Section 2, Paragraph 6 of Executive Order Number 15, Series of 2001. Hence, under existing laws, the accounts of the MECO pertaining to its collection of such verification fees and consular fees should be audited by COA. Based on the case of FUNA versus MECO. Are water districts within the coverage of the COA? Yes. A water district is a GOCC with a special charter since it is created pursuant to a special law. Can the COA disallow TESDA from paying a healthcare allowance to their employees? Yes, TESDA is a government instrumentality and thus under the coverage of COA. COA is generally accorded complete discretion in the exercise of its constitutional duty and responsibility to examine and audit expenditures of public funds. Only instances when COA acts without or in excess of jurisdiction or grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction shall the court intervene based on the case of TESDA versus COA. What is the composition of the Civil Service Commission? It is composed of 2 commissioners and 1 chairman. What is the composition of COA? It is composed of 2 commissioners and 1 chairman. What is the composition of the COMELEC? The COMELEC is composed of 6 commissioners and 1 chairman. What are the qualifications of the members of a Civil Service Commission? First, it should be a natural-born citizen, at least 35 years at the time of the appointment, and with proven capacity for public administration. He should not be a candidate of any elective position in the election immediately preceding the appointment. What are the qualifications of the members of the COMELEC? Should be a natural-born citizen, at least 35 years at the time of the appointment, a holder of a college degree, and should not be a candidate for any elective position in the election immediately preceding the appointment. Majority, including the chairman, must be members of the Philippine Bar and have practiced law for at least 10 years. What are the qualifications of the members of COA? Should be a natural-born citizen, at least 35 years of age at the time of the appointment, a certified public accountant with at least 10 years of auditing experience, or a lawyer who have practiced law for at least 10 years. At no time shall the members of the commission belong to the same profession. And should not be a candidate for any elective position in the election immediately preceding the appointment. What are the prohibitions for the members of constitutional commissions during their tenure? No member of a constitutional commission shall, during their tenure, be financially interested, directly or indirectly, in any contract with or in any franchise or privilege granted by the government or its subdivisions, agencies, or instrumentalities. Second, should engage in the practice of any profession. Third, engage in the active management and control of any business which in any way may be affected by the functions of his office. And last, hold any other office or employment under Article 9, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution. What cases decided by the COMELEC are subject to judicial review? Decisions or determinations by the COMELEC in the exercise of their administrative, not quasi-judicial power may be questioned in an ordinary civil action before the trial court, based on the case of Filipinas Engineering Machine Shop versus Ferrer. If the COMELEC, in deciding a case, is exercising quasi-judicial functions, what is the remedy? The remedy is to go to the Supreme Court through Rule 65, based on Rule 64 of the Rules of Court. Who has jurisdiction to determine the presence of probable cause in election cases? The finding of probable cause and the prosecution of election offenses rest in the COMELEC's sound discretion, based on the case of Baitan versus COMELEC.